Hello, hello, hello. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the first episode of Buffalo Boys, your weekly West Park Fantasy Football League podcast, hosted by myself, Ryan.
And Todd Ellis.
Here we are. Well, Todd, great to be sitting with you here in Miami. I'm glad we're putting together this spicy original content as the kings of the OC.
And as the kings of last season, as we were in the championship game, so we clearly know what we're talking about.
That is right, yeah. Great to be with you. We are currently sipping on some really good beer that we bought yesterday from Tripping Animals, which is a brewery in Doral. Is it Doral?
Yeah.
Florida, outside of Miami.
Some of you may know Doral for our former President Donald Trump's golf course.
R.I.P. Trump, yes.
R.I.P.
What a good man. No, just kidding. Editing that out. But this is a 15% Imperial Stout that we're currently drinking. Does not taste like 15%. Very smooth. Really going down well. Hopefully this will get us a little loose.
Cheers, Ryan.
Cheers to you, Todd. Glad to be sitting with you. Buffalo? No, just kidding.
Not quite. But you'll probably get me at one of these days.
Maybe one day. All right, so as the first episode of Buffalo Boys, we thought that it might be a good idea just to give you a little history about how we got into fantasy football, and specifically our favorite teams. As you know, Todd is a diehard Packers fan. I am a Steelers fan. Todd, let's start with you. How did you get into football, and how did you get into the Packers?
As some know, I was born in Wisconsin. Grew up for a couple of years, just about 30, 40 minutes outside of Green Bay. My grandparents all lived up there. I have cousins up there. A lot of people have left since then. But my earliest memories, around like 6 years old, are watching the Packers. I'm sitting on the floor of our living room, and Favre's doing his magic. Not to reiterate, but it's magical to me. Watching him in the 1997 playoffs take down the Patriots before they were a dynasty. So you can thank us for having one less Patriots Super Bowl. But yeah, it's just in my earliest memories. Like, my whole family would watch. And my dad is definitely like a diehard fan. My grandma, you should see her living room. Well, she's moved into a nursing home now, but her previous living room was just decked out. Every wall that wasn't a picture of family was a picture of her other family, the Green Bay Packers.
Wow.
There was everything from newspaper articles from when we won a championship to a Brett Favre football that I now have upstairs, to bobbleheads, to just anything that has that magical G on it. I always found football to be the most engaging sport because it really put two men and their will against each other. My dad will always tell me when I was watching, it was like, see, you got to keep your legs moving. If you keep your legs moving, you're going to get the first down. And like that kind of became like a theme for me, is to keep going, keep trying, not give up. Then in high school, the genesis of this great league, had some friends that were playing fantasy football and got mixed into that. And ever after, it became one of my favorite hobbies.
There you go. Awesome.
But what about you, Ryan? What's the deal with the Steelers?
Yeah, so my mom grew up in Pittsburgh. Her entire side of the family grew up in Pittsburgh. I wasn't really a football watcher that early on, but I guess it all started for me in 1998, third grade, Mr. Stanton's class. My favorite teacher to this day, just a really cool dude. I mean, as an 8-year-old, it was just like, he was the coolest guy ever, right? So he asked us to pick teams at the beginning of the year to follow them, NFL teams. So every Monday we would come in and like fill in, how the team was doing, how they did that previous day. And I picked the Steelers, obviously, for, the family connection there. And I was just a fan ever since. Luckily, I got in on the, early on before they started winning a bunch of Super Bowls. But Listen, I remember that first year, 1998, Cordell Stewart. I mean, it wasn't the best football, but I've been a fan of the black and gold ever since. All right, Todd. Well, before we get into this current season and our thoughts on how 2022 WPFL League will go, I think we should talk about the 2021 season and get a little review. Of course, it was a very good season for me. I won my first championship. I'm still riding the high. But yeah, let's talk about 2021. Give me some of your thoughts on last year.
2021 was certainly a roller coaster. There was plenty going on for the league, but for all of our listeners out there, I'll just recap the final standing real quick.
Perfect.
So we had you and I, obviously, in the championship game. I went down. If I just played it the right defense, it would have been a little bit different, but that's all right.
That's what all losers say.
Yes. And that's where we are. So in the runner-up game, we had Mims and Dave. Mims pulled it out to finish third, and Mims has just been on a tear to begin his tenure in the West Park League. Mm-hmm. He has 2 seasons so far. He's finished 5th and 3rd for an average of 4th overall, and he even led the league in wins last year. So he's been a valuable addition to the league. Rounding out the playoff teams, we have Neil and Forrest, perennial playoff contenders, and Forrest is looking pretty strong for this year, but we'll touch base on that soon. And then the losers. The losers include Nixon, AJ, Adler, Mike S., Jimmy, Mike Oil, Rick, and Doug. There's not much to say about these guys.
No, just they're pathetic. Honestly, it's an embarrassment.
It really is, and you hate to see it, especially for Doug, who has progressively been getting worse, finishing 12th, 13th, and 14th last year.
Doug, step it up, man! Come on.
But aside from Doug, he has a neighbor that has been hanging around him in the dregs down there. Rick has finished 13th, 11th, 14th, and 13th. There's only up to go for here, Rick, though, so the future's bright, unless you just keep doing what you're doing.
Which he very might do. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Well, thank you for that recap, Todd. Moving on, let's give the people a review of the 2022 WPFL draft. Give us some of your thoughts on that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as a reminder for our listeners out there, we have an auction draft. And, we've been doing auction since 2016. And so we have a good amount of trends here at this point. So some things that jumped out at me from a high level is we really saw a depreciation of the RB1 value. The past few seasons, RB1 overall went in the 85 plus territory. Jonathan Taylor was all the way down at 78. So it was pretty interesting. And then there was another tier drop off into the CMC Henry territory where we were only in the 60s at that point. So the league definitely made a pivot, whether it's because the RB1s have a lot of question marks. They're getting up there in age. The notorious RB cliff of 26 years old, I think scared some people with CMC, Henry, Cook, Kamara, all over 26, and Aaron Jones, I think it's 26, turning 27 in that category. Mixon is just turning 26, so there's a lot of age there that I think is factored into the values. Also, I think the wide receivers were really palatable this season. So conversely, we saw a sharp increase in our wide receiver 1 spending. So that's something to keep an eye on, for next draft season. But in terms of individual drafts, starting from the high level, my review of everyone's draft, we're going to see Forrest, myself, Mims, Adler, Jimmy, and Mike Simpson all in the playoffs. Sorry, Ryan. You're just on the cut.
Okay.
We can't have a magical draft for you every year.
Unfortunately, that cannot be the case. I'm feeling really good about Jonathan Taylor this year, but yeah, listen, it's your opinion. I guess we'll see what happens.
And that leaves Ryan, Neil, Dave, Hoyle, Doug, AJ, Nixon, and our projected Sacco of Rick, which has received some controversial feedback from some of the league members so far. On paper, you'd like to think Rick's team can do something. I'm also factoring in Rick's inability to manage the waiver wire or his team or trades throughout a full season.
Or really participate in the group me at all. Listen, Rick, I know you don't live in the gym. Surely you have time to participate to, defend yourself. But, he has just been quite the absentee owner.
I feel confident in us saying this because he's not even going to listen to this.
That is true. Yeah, we can talk as much shit as we want, and it probably will never get back to him. So, all right. Well, speaking of the Sacco and speaking of the draft, we have a segment, Idiot Drafter. Todd, I would love to know your opinion on who the idiot drafter this year is, and then, of course, I will give my opinion.
Unfortunately, I'm going to label our idiot drafter of the year to be our great commissioner, Nixon Ball. Nixon, I'm sorry to say it, man, but you just aren't learning from your mistakes. Year in and year out, you come out with only 3 running backs, sometimes 4, and you load up on wide receiver. And it's been a recipe for disaster as you routinely have injuries. And I'm afraid that that's going to be in your forecast here as well because, Nixon, you drafted 2 of the oldest running backs in the RB1 tier with Dalvin Cook and Alvin Kamara. You did get Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill is going to look really good for this team. Value is pretty good at $41. Can't complain there. Cook and Kamara at $67 and $55 respectively. That's decent value for who is going around them. But I think you put all of your eggs in the old basket and you're going to get hurt and have no one to play for you. Mm-hmm. You do have Darrell Henderson on the bench, so I think that's going to pay off for you, as we already saw in the Thursday night game. And as a reminder for the folks listening, this is being recorded before Week 1. It's currently 11:20 on Sunday a.m. Eastern Time, Best Coast time.
Best Coast.
So we haven't seen any games other than the Thursday night game. But back to Nixon's foolish draft. He loaded up on receivers. Here's the list of receivers. Hill, we talked about that. Thielen, Lockett, Woods. What's the average age there? Thielen's like 32. Tyler Lockett's 29. Woods is 30 or 31.
Practically senior citizens from an NFL standpoint.
And we've already seen Thielen start to taper off. He hasn't completely hit the cliff, and everyone's forecasting it, but he could have a great season. I could eat my words. I'm happy to come back here at the end of the podcast and completely ignore that I made this prediction, as no one else is making a podcast or writing in. But if you do write in, we'll talk about it.
Boom. Yeah, make sure to write in. WPFL@football.com. No, just kidding. We don't have a fan email box just yet. It's a good idea, though. Well, Todd, if I may turn the mirror on you for a second, I am picking you for our Idiot Drafter of the Year. Of course, as you know, you got some pretty heavy flack on draft night. We talked about this before. You're really going for the boom or bust here. Your team could surprise everyone, or they could surprise no one this year. I guess we'll see how it works out. But yeah, good luck to you. All right, Todd, well, moving on. Let us talk about the matchup rundown for Week 1 of the WPFL season.
Awesome, yeah. So up first, we've got me and Neil. Currently projected at 103 to 91.7. Neil finally did his patented move of adding a kicker at the last moment and dropping Kenneth Gainwell despite only having 3 other running backs.
Is his kicker cousin Randy?
Sadly, no. There was a bit of draft controversy where Dave decided to take 2 kickers just to try to outbid or overbid Neil for his favorite player. I think Neil's had cousin Randy every season of Randy's NFL career. But, I think I have this one in the bag already after a Thursday night breakout game as predicted by my drafting strategy from Gabe Davis. And a complete poo-pooed his pants performance from Cam Akers.
Yeah, that was tough to watch for all those Cam Akers owners out there. But yeah, you are up by almost 17 points going into Sunday. I feel like cousin Randy's team is really going to have to do something amazing to beat you. I don't think it's going to happen. I think you've got the victory. Up next, let's talk about this matchup. Uncle Mike versus
Dave Evans.
Dave Evans. There you go.
Dave shot out of a cannon with his love for the Bills in the Thursday night performance with Josh Allen and the Buffalo defense popping off. Mike had Isaiah McKenzie, who got a lucky fluke touchdown. Probably not going to keep happening, as Jamison Crowder got way more playing time and targets than Isaiah McKenzie.
Unbelievable. Yeah. I mean, it's going to be tough for Mike to come back after this incredible lead from Dave. I mean, look at that. Buffalo's defense had 20 points. Josh Allen had 31. I mean, just really, really solid.
Mike's team, though, has a lot of ceiling. There's a lot of unknowns with Trey Lance. Trey could really pop off this week against the Chicago defense. Najee could look good, but I'm not hopeful for Gibson. He had one of the worst off seasons you could possibly have this year. And Javonte is still in timeshare. So until Melvin Gordon decides to retire, I'm not sure the UNC standout is going to be as dominant as Mike hopes.
Go Tar Heels, by the way. Up next, matchup I'm personally very excited about. It is me versus our clown commish.
Current projections show us at 112 to 104, favoring
your boy
Ryan Salkert. Not much happened on the opening night, just a kicker and a defense, but we have a lot of interesting matchups here. We get to see if the idiot drafter of the year, Nixon Ball, can outcoach the talent level of his team.
Only time will tell, I guess.
What do you think your key advantage is here?
You know what? I mean, the fact that I have, in my opinion, the number one quarterback and the number one running back in the league. I think this is really going to do well for me. I'm feeling really good about Jonathan Taylor versus Houston. I will talk about that matchup a little bit more further on in the show. But yeah, I mean, Nick Chubb, excited about him, excited to see what Elijah Moore does this week.
I think he is going to be a key player for you. With Flacco last season, in their one game, small sample size, I don't need to hear that, but in their one game, he went for something like one touchdown, 140 yards, and 8 receptions. He is a safety outlet for the aging Joe Flacco, who can still throw a ball. I think this is going to be a great week for Elijah Moore, even with the vaunted Baltimore defense, which has only increased its talent. One, in part because they actually have healthy players starting on defense this year, and two, several draft picks, including a first-round graded safety.
Absolutely. Well, I hope it works out for me.
Up next, we have Mims versus AJ. Currently, AJ got off to a solid start, which he should have because he had his top 2 receivers and top 2 draft picks play, Cooper Kupp and Stephon Diggs. Those are definitely going to be the cornerstone and foundation for this team, but there's not much else to like on AJ's team. Currently, he's up 48-6.
Commanding lead so far.
But when you're starting MVS and Kareem Hunt, and Dawson Knox only gets you 1 point, you can't feel that good going into Sunday. With Mims, though, excellent drafter. He's got a solid team. I think Devontae, I think TJ, Hawkinson, and Buccaneers boys, Brady and Fournette, will do you well this week.
I mean, when I look at Mims's team this year, it reminds me so much of my team last year. I think Mims saw that and he was like, well, okay, clearly Ryan knows what he's doing, drafting all of these Buccaneers. Let me see if it works for me. I hope it doesn't work for him, but I mean...
you being a new draft wizard, a new draft god, if you will, you saw the writing on the wall for the Buccaneers team. You saw the aberration of a 1 year of success. Brady barely came out of retirement to play another season, and the Bucs lost their entire offensive line. Fournette, he's not shifty at this point. He's 26 or 27 years old, and he needs a line to create those big holes that he was getting last year. I'm not seeing it for the Buccaneers this year.
No, it'll be interesting. And, will Tom Brady's head still be in the game when rumors of Giselle leaving the compound are out there? I guess only time will tell. Good luck to that couple there. All right, so with all that said, even though AJ's team is projected to win, I'm feeling pretty good about Mims's team. I think he's going to come out with a victory here. Todd, your thoughts?
Have to agree. And in the interest of time, we're just going to power through our last 3 matchups here.
Perfect. Up next, Doug versus Mike Hoyle. Pretty intriguing matchup. Right now, there's just 1.5 points between them in the projected total. How do you think this one's going to go, Todd?
Well, Doug usually starts the season strong and finishes pretty weak. Other than his one-time championship, we don't need to hear about it, Doug. It's way in the past at this point.
Ancient history at this point.
But yeah, as I was saying, Doug's team usually starts strong because he drafts pretty well and then can't make a single waiver move to save his life, which is okay. We still love you, Doug. Hoyle has a lot of great receivers, but similarly with the Buccaneers, the Cowboys have lost most of their talent on offensive line. And I really struggle to see Zeke making any difference for him this season. And if he's actually starting Zeke and Tony Pollard, that's not a recipe for success. So this one's a real crapshoot here. I'm gonna throw something at the wall and just say Doug pulls it out.
Okay, I will be contrarian, and I'll say that Mikey Shorts pulls it out.
All right, our next matchup is Rick versus Jimmy. Bottom tier talent. Not a whole lot to say. The only matchup with both teams projected below 100 points.
Yikes.
I mean, guys, we just drafted, but, we still have to talk about you, so I'll say Rick wins.
Okay, I'll say that Jimmy wins, although I don't feel good about either of these teams.
It's hard to.
Yeah, I mean, it is just really tough.
Rick's team, though, if Chris Godwin isn't playing or is still hobbled, I might walk that back and say Jimmy can pull this one out, but it's a real gamble. Jimmy, hey, I hope you're listening to this before 1 p.m. because you have J.K. Dobbins in your starting lineup, and it is 11:37 right now, sir. So take a look at that starting lineup.
Yikes. What are the chances that he makes that change before the 1 o'clock kickoff? I'm not feeling great about it.
I give him more credit. He has been all offseason a contributor and very present, unlike Doug. And no, Doug's been here. Now that he has a house, has a wife, and has a kid, there's no more big life events holding it back. So I feel good about Doug this season. But yeah, I think Jimmy will put someone in. The real question, though, and maybe why he hasn't made the decision, is who's he going to put in? Mike Davis?
Yikes.
Maybe push Stevenson up and have Amari Cooper? I mean, this just goes to tell you, not a whole lot to like about this team.
Nope. Not at all. Real stinker. And finally, saving the best for last, perhaps, maybe, it is Adler against Forrest. Give me your thoughts on this matchup, Todd.
It's going to be a close one for sure. Forrest is my preseason projected winner, so I have to like him. And even if I think it's close, I think he's going to pull it out. Winners win. And Forrest, although hasn't won in about more than a decade, I have confidence that he'll pull it out this season. So with Justin Herbert, Aaron Jones, DJ Moore, Mike Williams, Kyle Pitts, I mean, there is a lot of ceiling on scoring this week. So unfortunately, Adler, you just don't have the guns to keep up with him, especially if you start Jerry Jeudy, who I think we're going to see fall to third in Russell Wilson's favorite targets this season. So end of the day, Forrest pulls this one out.
Yeah, I think Forrest is also going to pull it out, but I love this matchup. As a matter of fact, this is my game of the week for WPFL. I think this is a must-watch. I think it could go back and forth.
Have to agree with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, another segment we are doing on the podcast, Breakout of the Week. This could be any number of things. For this week, I have chosen a breakout star. I don't mean to be a homer. He is on my fantasy team this year, but it's Jonathan Taylor. Let me tell you a little bit about my thinking here, Todd. Last season against Houston, Jonathan Taylor scored 28.3 points and 24.3 points. And I think this year he could be even better. I don't think Houston has really improved over the offseason, especially their defense. I'm feeling really, really good about Jonathan Taylor. I think he could potentially have 30 points. I mean, he could really go off. But tell me about your breakout of the week.
I had an idea that I was going to go down with, but since you chose to be a homer, I think I'm going to be a homer as well. I say my entire team breaks out and every single player beats his projection. Now, how about that for a bold prediction, Ryan?
Wow. Yeah, that is quite bold, as you said. That is.
If one player doesn't, who do you think it would be?
As hard as this is for me to say, I don't know what the Pittsburgh passing offense is going to be. I know when Big Ben was playing, he'd love to target his tight ends. This year with Pat Freiermuth, I just don't know how it's going to be. I mean, he's projected at 7.3 points today. I'm not feeling great about it, but if there's one person to not meet their projection, I think it's going to be Pat.
Fair. Do we have any more segments for our loyal listeners?
Yes, we do. Our final segment of episode 1 of Buffalo Boys. I've been having a great time. I see you're almost done with your beer. 15%. I mean, this thing's going down real smooth. I mean, what are your thoughts about this beer before we get into the last segment?
My thought is you still have half a beer to go, and that's just so par for the course for you, Ryan.
You know what? I just like to sip and enjoy, and I'm really enjoying listening to you talk football, and I've just been distracted, I guess.
This is what our league's about. Positive community.
Yes. Take notes out there, friends. It's all about positivity here on Buffalo Boys. All right, our last segment is bold prediction, and we talked a little bit about this before we started.
I think we should just go ahead and say it.
Sure. On 3, we say it at the same time?
Yep.
Okay, 1, 2,
3.
There will be a new champion this year. Okay, and what we mean by that is we believe that for this season, 2022 WPFL, we believe that somebody who has never won the championship will be crowned champion this year. As hard as that is for me to say, because I'm liking my team, obviously I hope I go back-to-back, but I just have a feeling that somebody out there who has never won a WPFL championship is going to become champion.
Yeah, I mean, it has to be, per my unassailable projections, Forrest, me, or Mims. Just go ahead and write it in the books.
Yeah, I mean, if I were a betting man, I think third time's a charm could really be the name to watch this season. I really do love how Mims has come into this league and has been competitive the entire time, and I think this just might be a season, so we'll see how it goes. All right, Todd. Well, I've enjoyed it. This is episode 1 of Buffalo Boys. Make sure to smash that like button, hit subscribe if you're enjoying the content, and we will come at you next week.
Thursday.
This Thursday. That's
Thursday.
Right. That's right.
Quick turnaround.
Yes.
Short week for us, but champions are born in this area.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking forward to it. Looking forward to a great 2022 WPFL season, as always. Have a great week, everyone. We'll talk to you later.